The part begins. The hero Lord Grimm was ready to go into action but suddenly Sleeping Moon stopped him in his tracks. Sleeping Moon wasn't veritably friendly and ate him with a hello my burrow, but the promoter wasn't bullied and responded with a laugh and a what is up that left Sleeping Moon speechless. Sleeping Moon wanted to smear Lord Grimm, but the promoter acted as if nothing had happened. Sleeping Moon indeed transferred a communication to the promoter about his power and that his counsel should not get dirty, but he only replied, I know I can't find anyone to group with presently. To Sleeping Moon's surprise, the promoter took the action and transferred him a request to group up. Sleeping Moon had a group of 4 players, but he wanted to defame Lord Grimm, so he got help from his council and other players. Also, the promoter joined the playgroup in the Green Forest. The leader Sleeping Moon was reluctant about her request, but thanked her in a private communication in the end with 4 abettors by his side. The promoter entered the dungeon and stood out as a professed player with strong normal attacks. Although the other 4 did not help, the promoter fluently handled 5 girdled monsters thanks to his skill in using their attacks similar as Heaven Punch and Dragon's Tooth. In the end, everyone realized that the promoter wasn't a simple character and they were impressed by his chops in the game. A party member named 7 Fields praised him, and another person said that he could fluently clear a delicate dungeon on his own. Indeed, Sleeping Moon, who considers himself an educated player, came across the boy's capability. Also, 7 Fields determined that the 4 players would venture into the Delve of Spiders, a dungeon indeed more delicate than the former bone, but Sleeping Moon had to buy it as to whether he could clear it with just 4 people. Still, 7 Fields was sure it would be easy as long as they did not find the retired heads, but also someone made a lurid offer. What if they killed a handy boy in the Delve of Spiders? Sleeping Moon was shot, but 7 Fields set up a result. First, they'll let him do all the hard work, and also they'll protest him out. Sleeping Moon was relieved to hear this and hastily leveled up before venturing into the Delve of Spiders. The 4 boys are a bit aggressive, but they let the main character do all the work. But after arguing with each other, they decide to help him, and together they start clearing monsters in a dungeon. As they kill the monsters, they talk about the munitions they've and how they could be more effective. The promoter, who's an expert in the game, is the one who guides them through the dungeon and helps them come more effective. After a while, Lord Grimm, character of the main character, is the first to reach position and is honored by the system. Although there is another player who also reached position, Lord Grimm doesn't watch. Eventually, after clearing the dungeon, everyone reached position and got some gear. Also, 7 Fields proposes that they all attack the Delve of Spiders together, and the promoter agrees, but before that he wants to learn some chops. Sleeping Moon, who formerly had a disagreement with the promoter, is a little uncomfortable with this regretful change, but in the end they all dive the spider delve together in the colliginous cave of spiders. There were cobwebs far and wide and scattered configurations. Sleeping Moon and his platoon were a bit nervous because if a character failed in the Gloria game they would lose experience, but when he reached the heavenly sphere, death turned into fear and experience dropped by %. Thank you. Lord Grimm, with his battle shaft in hand, took the action to destroy the mine. Suddenly a large green toxic spider appeared and jumped from a gemstone towards Lord Grimm, but Lord Grimm was quick to reply and dodged the attack with a series of keys and clicks. Lord Beam also bounded into the air and madly attacked the green spider with an emotional 4 mega hit quintet in the air. Sleeping Moon and her platoon were speechless upon seeing this capability and began to presume on how Lord Grimm was suitable to do it. Some allowed that it could be his outfit or his armament, while others believed that it could be his playing skill or his speed. But in the end he decided not to worry about the reason and just enjoy the show. Sleeping Moon had a deep abomination for the promoter, but after seeing his capacities, she realized that it wouldn't be that easy to finish him off. But what about his 3 musketeers? They were simply speechless at the inconceivable skill of this Joe. 7 Fields told his musketeers to stop being annoying and deal with this amazing Joe. The promoter has just killed a green spider with just 1 breath. 7 Fields and others rustle. It's a really emotional skill. 7 Fields asks about the guilt that promoter's character belongs to, but is surprised to learn that he's alone. How can such a professed player not be in a council? This Garkin has no orders yet. 7 Fields tries to find out further about the player but is met with an fugitive answer. 7 Fields feels trapped in a wall and can't break the ice, but no problem, the promoter keeps moving forward and 7 Fields and the others follow him inseparably. Sleeping Moon is uncomfortable, but everyone is agitated to have this player on their platoon. Suddenly they came across a large toxic monster. Everyone bowed to the capability of the leader, Lord Grimm. Indeed, Sleeping Moon, who could not help but admit his capability. Lord Grimm fluently handled 7 monsters like a botcher. Still, when the first master arrived, a pall of thick grandiloquent mist gushed out and 2 members were unfit to shirk it and used cure, but their life kept dwindling. It turned out that the cure grade was too long. Hello. Lord Grimm healed the 2 players and began running. 7 Fields and Sleeping Moon. Still, Sleeping Moon nearly coughed up blood when Lord Grimm called him Little Moon, but there was no time to argue. They could take on boss number 1. This monster was an immense spider, much larger than normal spiders, which due to its fairly heavy weight had a different advantage. The main character is the captain of this videotape game circus. 2 of the players run at 7 and 9 o'clock while the rest look on in confusion, but Lord Grimm knows what he is doing. He slides left and right and leads the master towards his teammates, but the main character says don't move. What a Sly Joe. Sleeping Moon decides to ignore the promoter and roll anyway, but Lord Grimm had formerly delivered a heaven punch to the master's stomach back on the ground. The platoon is ready for action. 7 fields kicks 9 thrust, and 7 o'clock uses repel. And the promoter conducts the symphony. It's like a game of billiards with the master as the ball and the 4 players as cues. There was a cheat called Shadow Clone Fashion in one game, but it was not veritably effective against educated opponents. Lord Grimm still used it in a clever way and forced the Spider Master down. Sleeping Moon also had to hit the spider, and unexpectedly it started to bleed. The reason behind this was incapability called double stab, which had a retired bleed effect and only actuated with a specific action. The probability of this passing was about % for a normal player having caused a bleed effect would be considered luck, but for Lord Grimm it doesn't surprise anyone since he had numerous analogous retired capacities with the promoter chops in command. This master was defeated without a problem, and therefore they got their first kill. Everyone was veritably happy, but that isn't all. This group of icons was the first group to clear the delve of spiders on the Garkin, leaving other groups stunned and reticent. Who's this Lord Grimm? Supposedly he's the same person who killed the Night Demon Cat and is making in-game history, but not everyone is happy. Another group of 5 players sorely lost the fight against the Spider Lord by just seconds. Where did Lord Grimm come from? Is he a mysterious and talented player who was changing the game ever? We also see the Blue River Sisters lamenting that they didn't make the first many kills. One of its leaders comes from one of the 3 great guilds, the Blue Brook Guild. He's like Lord Grimm, and he has a great background. He's like the leader of his platoon, and he's backed by a professional club called Club Blue Rain. The #1 player on his platoon is known as the Saint of the Brand and is veritably notorious. When the Garkin opened Blue River and his companions were transferred to pioneer and master the dungeon logs, but who would have allowed that their dreams of greatness would be intruded in the delve of spiders? Blue River Sisters are depressed and he's feeling down. 2 council experts fought for the power of the Blue Brook Guild for numerous times, so everyone knows each other's experts. Still, Lord Graham no way appeared on their list of names. How mysterious. The Blue River Sisters hunt for information on their teammates, but they are all missing. Indeed, as people from the Blue Brook Guild cannot be fluently set up. Still, when Blue River entered the spider delve to position up the requested information eventually arrived, but this information only made the situation indeed more chaotic. Meanwhile, 7 Fields and his musketeers could not get out of their excitement. After clearing a delicate dungeon, it was a dream come true. Lord Grimm, their great leader, simply said veritably good experience and left them in shock. He was an expert at the top. 7 Fields indeed allowed of leaving his council to follow Lord Grimm, but Sleeping Moon did not partake his joy. Lord Grimm, who was his abominated adversary, is now the idol of his sisters. Sleeping Moon tried to affront Lord Grimm again by saying that one day he would get over it, but he only entered a laugh and a good luck in response. This drove him crazy. He yelled, but 7 Fields calmed him down. Sisters, sunset, shadows, drifting water, and 7 Fields are looking to come stylish musketeers with Lord Grimm, but Sleeping Moon, poor soul, mirthfully declined the assignation of fellowship. Still, after being swept away by his sisters and 7 Fields, he decided to follow them on their dungeon adventure. We also see Chenghua, the proprietor of the internet cafe where Yesio lives in place, ended up sleeping late due to her excitement over the recently opened Garkin. Chen lives in the internet cafe and considers it his home since she was little. She has grown and worked there. After her father's death, she dropped out of council and took control of the internet cafe in place of her cousins. Times have passed and she still feels satisfied and comfortable living in the internet cafe, where she feels a sense of stability and tranquility. Indeed, when she looks out the window on a table where white day, she no way feels lonely. Chenghua was confused as to how the leading man joined playgroup, but he just took away their capability and earned his place after helping the party members through the first Spider Emperor Master clear. The party members were so thankful that they allowed the promoter to pick first when it came time to hand out outfit. This man indeed included 3 first punts in one night. Chenghua was in admiration of the promoter's skill. After a night of gaming, he logged out and got some sleep. Although Chinwo offered to give him some food before he went to sleep, the promoter sounded too tired and just went to sleep. Also, when the promoter wakes up, he decides to go back to the internet cafe that's full of people, but commodity is different. People are looking at a protuberance on the wall. It is about Yeso's career and glory. The judge described his achievements: 3 times league champion, 3 times MVP, 2 times rising star, once 1 hit 1 death. The man is a legend, but also the crowd tearfully watches as the images of the One Afterlife Leaf Battle God begin to fade. The Excellent Period Club held a press conference to advertise the withdrawal of their captain Issue, who was the lead. The man did not indeed show up at his own press conference and just acclimated his withdrawal and left. How mysterious. The screen continues to flash with recollections of Yishio and the colliginous situation of Excellent Period, and the crowd in the internet cafe is blubbing. Well, all those achievements and recollections will no way be forgotten. The judge says that the club was suitable to invite a new expert, but the king of the first generation had to leave sorely, and the promoter, although he was walking freely, his heart was absolutely unhappy and he still wanted to fight. Still, the club gave him A veritably hard choice: cheapen himself or retire, but the promoter saw through his tricks and knew it was a trap indeed, so he was forced to retire by the club. But to his surprise, when he left the internet cafe, he set up Chinwa crying outside the door. She called him a beast for having no passions, not knowing it was the same one she was crying. For everyone was sad except for the main character, who had a calm expression on his face. But it turns out that the internet cafe used to broadcast noble competitions, and this special broadcast made everyone sad, and some indeed went home crying into their pillows. In the quiet internet cafe, Ishio wondered what to do when he saw the master Chinwa. He asked if he could start working, and she said yes, but she had to watch the counter. The promoter asked if he could play games and bank, and Shengui helplessly jounced to both questions. Chenbua told him that most of the guests stay overnight, and if any computer does not work, he should just renew it or switch to a different one. At o'clock, the promoter is in the internet cafe, which is now exceptionally empty. He logs into the game and receives colorful dispatches from his musketeers lining up to say, "Hello, 7 Fields, Sunset, Shadows, Drifting Water, and Sleeping Moon are part of the canon, but Sleeping Moon is not playing moment due to his sadness over Ikkyo's withdrawal. 7 Fields suggests adding someone at arbitrary, but the promoter says that will not be enough to kill the retired heads in the Delve of Spiders. How about adventure in the Shell Cemetery?" Raises the promoter. Yes, blatted 7 Fields madly. It was a position to dungeon, and the promoter's musketeers wanted to go on a field trip to get some early concurrences, but the promoter had other ideas. He did not give so important significance to being the first to clear the dungeon and keeping his position at the top. Large kills organized themselves to position over snappily and get early concurrences using tactics like teaming up and playing for hours, but the promoter realized that the record in the position Frost Forest dungeon had formerly been broken 3 times, and the current bone was held by the Condiment Theater platoon. He felt a little confused, but he knew that that record would be broken again, since the loftiest position player was position, and the record would be set by a group of position. The promoter entered the Shell Graveyard Yard with his musketeers 7 Fields, Sunset, Shadows, and Drifting Water in hunt of the Shell soldiers' cutlasses. As they made their way through the dungeon, the rain began to fall and the sounds of ghosts could be heard around them. Suddenly, the promoter has a moment of fear due to a white and bloody figure that seems to be gaping at him. He makes a mistake in the game, but he snappily corrects it. Also, her teammate Shingwish shows up and starts talking about a possible meeting of Ikkyo, who was a notorious player and the once Shengwa believes that the position of player's moment has advised, and it's no longer possible for a single person to lead his platoon to pawn. The promoter is silent during the discussion. The promoter is now fighting the master and nearly suffocated by his mate Chingwa, but like the Titleist that he kept his hands on the keyboard and kept playing without taking his eyes off the screen. Shenhua met the game and played with the promoter, but the ultimate informed him that he to do the introductory operations first. Shenhua impatiently decided to do the contrary of what the promoter said and asked him to take her to a dungeon. The idle study of an amazing way to get once that set up until Chingwa to just kill monsters until he reached position. This infuriated Chengua, but the idol, like a true leader, continued to concentrate on his game, issuing orders his teammates and achieving grand palms. During the dungeon, the promoter realizes that Chengua is using his main account and concentrates indeed more on the game to avoid any trouble. Chengua feels sad and frustrated because he's moving sluggishly, and then is the lead talking to himself. But in the end, he decides not to beget trouble and continues to play still. Overall, the game is challenging for the group, but they overcome the difficulties and move on despite being covered in sweat. When the final master collapsed 7 Fields and the others learned the significance of having the right blend of classes in a dungeon, the stylish part was when the promoter felt a little nervous, but he incontinently concentrated % and came an emotional leader by clearing the dungeon efficiently. But the fun didn't end there. There were 3 retired heads in the Shell Graveyard, but thanks to the skill of the promoter, no member of the platoon was killed. But when a crooked grave begins to shake, the promoter calls out the alarm for his platoon to stand down. After a violent battle, they meet a Shell Warrior Master, and the promoter forgets to find a Joe to fight him, but no problem, he just yells at Chengua to help him. Supposedly the promoter has been busy fighting and has forgotten to do his exploration schoolwork before facing the master, but he snappily searched for a companion to master the Shell Warrior and make his small sword drop 100% of the time. Chengua screams excitedly as the lead lands 2 accurate successes on the Shell Soldier's buckle. Lord Grim hops with perfection of a cat and avoids the shockwave of the Shell Warrior, and with a simple drive, Lord Grim stabs the buckle again, transferring the Shell Warrior crashing to the ground. Indeed, the observers are speechless at Lord Grim's skill, but what's passing then? Chengguap was a bit confused. Also, the promoter made her look at commodity, and she saw that the buckle of her small sword was broken on the ground. Shinwu was surprised because she had heard a sound times during the battle, but Jisho told her that he used double impale 4 times and presumably did not hear it. Shanghai was speechless, but also she appeared again when the promoter said that configurations are vulnerable to bleeding, so Chingwa told her that she was tired and would go to sleep. Also, the promoter told his character in-game that he doesn't suppose they would stay over all night that day. The promoter becomes more popular in the game every day and receives dozens of friend requests. Then a veritably peculiar request arrives. It was Blue River from the Blue Brook Guild, and with its online name of Blue Bridge Spring Snow, she sounded to be a veritably tone-assured person. But what Blue River did not know is that he was talking to a true expert. The promoter honored the name of Blue Brook as one of the great orders, and didn't know who Blue Bridge Spring Snow was. Also, Blue River confidently stepped forward and decided to make discussion with the promoter and left without wasting time. Blue River was surprised when asked about the dungeon, and the promoter replied, Green Forest. Blue River nearly fell to the ground when he asked if the promoter wanted to join them for a dungeon in the Frost Timber, but the promoter asked him why him, and that left Blue River stone. It turns out that Lord Grimm's group had stolen 2 first concurrences in the Delve of Spiders, causing the Blue Brook Guild to lose face. He latterly set about that Lord Grimm had been indicted of designedly causing the death of the group just to take the retired master. The Blue Brook Council was interested in chancing out further about Lord Grimm and his platoon, and who was that person who could be so important to steal 2 first punts. So Blue River asked the promoter if he wanted to join them, but it seems that he prefers to go ahead with his own platoon anyway. People were surprised that a novitiate scoundrel was the platoon leader and focal point. The Blue Brook Guild noticed that Lord Grimm had a special gift and wanted to earn it for themselves. After successive friend requests, Lord Grimm decided to befriend Blue River. Blue River decided to invite him to the dungeon with them to assess whether he was a council expert or a wild expert. In any case, they would want Lord Grimm to join their platoon to help break the Frost Timber's record, but the promoter wanted some rare accoutrements. Although the mithril pendant wasn't worth much, the sharp fangs of the White Wolf were veritably precious. The timber couldn't be entered further than 4 times, so it was uncertain if they could find a retired master, and all those times Blue River was willing to give up the White Wolf fangs if the promoter only wanted them. But when he also wanted strong spider silks, Blue Swash called him a greedy newbie who had killed his group for the retired master. He wondered if that person would be a good fit for his council. After some dealing, the promoter decided to go for just the White Wolf fangs and some strong spider silk as a goodwill gesture. Blue River nearly swooned when Yishel began to deal over the mithril pendants, which he'd firstly said he didn't care about, but the promoter explained that these particulars can be precious to others. Blue River was worried, but after he allowed it would be worth it. In the end, he realized that his true intention was to invite Lord Grimm to help break her record. That was the true purpose behind all of this. Still, Blue River still had her to buy it as about Lord Grimm. Could he really be talented enough to help beat a record? But anyway, he invited Lord Grimm to join the party and awaited for his appearance outside the dungeon. Everyone was ready for action.